It's hard to believe that we're a couple days away from our last home game, last regular season game. Really excited about Saturday at Fiserv Forum, 1 o'clock, our senior day. Even though we don't have any seniors currently in our rotation, we do have some seniors in our program that we want to acknowledge and we want to send out in the right way. Plus, it's a really, really important game for us in that it's our last regular season game. It's our last game before the postseason. It's our last opportunity to step forward and grow until, as we move from the regular season to the postseason. So really, really grateful for all the fans and Marquette folks that have supported us this whole year. Really thankful for everyone that's reached out and been part of, celebrating winning the Big East regular season. We are working to build a consistent atmosphere of high level connectivity in Fiserv Forum between our team, especially our players, and our fans. And we feel like with Saturday being another game that we're hoping is going to be sold out, thinking is going to be sold out, it's just another step that we can take in that process, and really grateful for everyone that makes it happen.
For Zach, this hasn't been the season that you guys had planned on for him, but he seems to be an enthusiastic presence on the bench and in the locker room. How have you seen him just stay a part of his team?
Well, he's been great. I mean, I think sometimes when adversity hits for a player in the form of an injury or a surgery, there's a crossroads that you get to, and you have to make a choice and determine what you want to do and how you want to approach things. And he's been very team-oriented. He's still the only guy on our team that's won a national championship or has been a national player of the year, all the things that he did at his last stop. So he's been a really good influence on his teammates. He's been super connected with everyone to make our bench one of the best benches I think around. And he knows that hopefully if he can get back to full health, that he's got a lot of basketball ahead of him in his long-term career. So we're working to support him in that, and he's been very supportive of his teammates.
Shaka, how has this team taken what you've preached in practice since August on offense and turned it into that Big East regular season champs and a top 6 team in the country?
On offense specifically?
Yeah.
Well, I think the first component of good offense is guys who are willing to pass the ball and guys who are willing to play with the singular purpose of a basket for Marquette. And I think we have a terrific group from that standpoint. We don't have a lot of individual agendas. Obviously, guys would love to score. Guys would love to put a lot of points on the board. But I've probably reminded them 1,001 times that if we play the right way and we get the right shots and we take care of the ball, we are going to score a higher number of points. And when Marquette scores 85 points or 90 points, it's Tyler Kolix and Omax Prosper and Oso Ighodaro and Cam Jones and David Joplin and Stevie Mitchell and all of our other guys. They're the ones scoring those points. If we have a rough game and we only score 60, then that's the guys on our team scoring 25 or 30 less points than if we score 85, 90. And our guys have really bought into that. I think ball movement is a huge key. Tyler and Oso really set a tone with that. I think they're the 2 best passers at their position in college basketball. And they set a standard that other guys work to live up to. And then guys play their role. I think we have David Joplin and Cam Jones who know, hey, we want you to go score in different ways. We got Omax Prosper, hey, we want you to be aggressive. We want you to get in the paint. We want you to slash. We want you to take open outside shots. We want you to get the offensive glass. I think Stevie's had some big moments for us in times where maybe our team's struggling to score, where he stepped forward just through sheer grit and toughness to go get us a basket. And then our freshmen, they're doing what freshmen should do, which is come in the game and contribute and just find a way to help your team win.
When Tyler was first looking for a new school and you had just arrived, what was it that you saw in him that made you think he'd be a fit here, and what realistically were your expectations on what he might be able to accomplish?
I called Tyler the day I got the Marquette job, and I still remember that conversation. He was very polite on the phone. But you could tell he had a seriousness about him. He had a drive and a passion about him, about the game of basketball, and he was very clear on what he wanted. And for us, at that point, we're building a program. We knew that we needed to add guys that would fit our culture. The number one way to build and sustain culture is to add the right guys and subtract the wrong guys. And we knew from an early on, through talking to Tyler and through doing research on Tyler, that he was the right guy. What were our expectations? We thought he could come in here and play right away. We thought he'd be a guy that played with a high IQ, that could pass the ball, could shoot the ball. The way that he struggled shooting early last year, we didn't necessarily know that would happen, but in retrospect, you take a jump in level, you're asked to handle the ball and facilitate offense the way that we asked him to. You don't have as much shot creation for you by other guys as maybe you're used to. You're playing against Big East level contests. Maybe it makes sense that he didn't shoot the ball as well, but it's been so much fun to watch him grow and develop from that point. His confidence, his swagger, the work ethic that he's displayed every day. There's so much that he does in this building behind the scenes, on the road behind the scenes. I mean, I'm in Indy in our hotel. After pregame meal, I went to go work out. And in the weight room, there's Tyler Kolek doing his hip exercises because he doesn't have the most mobile hips. And he just has a commitment and a dedication to doing the right thing. And then where he's really, really grown in the past 10 months is his ability to lead others. We say leadership is making others better. That's it. So if you can make others better, you're a leader. If you can't, you're not. And man, he's made so many strides with that because his natural way is, as an old soul, to hang out with the GAs and the coaches and guys that are a little bit older than him. But what he's done is he's reached out to his teammates, most of whom are significantly younger than him, and he's brought them with him from the standpoint of understanding what goes into winning and from the standpoint of relationships.
The shooting numbers are extraordinary, the difference between this year and last year for him.
Well, for everyone that was saying he couldn't shoot, it's amazing. Shooting to me is the one skill, probably above all others in basketball, where it's like, if a guy can do this better than me or better than you, then maybe let him do what he does. There's a lot of people, it's funny, before we played DePaul, somebody was questioning Cam Jones' shooting and what he does. And Cam Jones is a different type of individual. And then he bombs in 6 threes and a half. So it's like, Cam Jones is a good shooter. Let's trust him to do the right thing there. What Tyler's done is he's flat out worked. And there's certain technical changes he's made with his offhand. With his, I think his feet have been more consistent. I think his landing has been more consistent. But he's worked at it, and his confidence has grown. His teammates' confidence has grown in his ability to shoot the ball. And just so much fun to see him out there with no hesitation, because that was the biggest challenge last year when he got off to a tough start. He hesitated a little bit when he was open, and then it snowballed a little bit. And, this year, particularly the second half of the season, there's been none of that.
Shaka, you mentioned trusting guys, and with your team, just because they haven't been here in a while, is there any concerns that you're telling them about, the hype and looking ahead to the NCAA tournament and all that stuff, or are they a pretty mature group that they don't need to be reminded about?
No, they need to be reminded. I mean, there's reminders every day about where our psychological disposition needs to be. And I think that's the difference between those of us in our locker room and maybe, someone just on the outside, is that, I've said this many, many times, it's easy for someone to say Marquette should do this, or Tyler Kolek should do that, or Cam Jones, or also they should do this based on what they've done. We go out there on Saturday, we're going to have to earn every team score, every team stop, every deflection, and there is no should about it. And when you go earn that, the first step is having the right disposition about you going into the game, having a humility about you that hey, I better do things the right way. I better give all the effort that I have. Our theme going into the Butler game was Respect 94, which is one of our cultural principles, because I felt like the second half of the DePaul game, we did not have a good enough respect for everything that goes into winning. And I thought our guys were terrific for the vast majority of the Butler game with respecting, first and foremost, Butler. Secondly, what we needed to do to be a good defensive team. And thirdly, what we needed to do to put the ball in the basket. Does that mean every possession is going to go perfectly? No. But if you have the right psychological disposition, it's amazing how much that can lead to you playing the right way.
And when you're looking across all the teams that you've been a part, where does this team rank? And is there some similarities maybe to that VCU team where that team came together at that time?
This team, I've said all season long, is in the top 2 in terms of the teams I've coached from the standpoint of relationships and from the standpoint of role definition and ownership. And actually, the other team is the year after we went to the Final Four at VCU. Those guys had a real humility about them. That was a team 11 years ago that at the beginning of the season said, hey, let's all come together and get off social media. And at that time, social media wasn't quite as prevalent as it is now, but it was starting to become a really big deal. And that really said something about those guys. Wow, you have the maturity to do that. And we only had one senior on that team, and I think 3 total scholarship upperclassmen. But this year's team, what we have is a bunch of guys that truly care about one another. I've told them several times already, when the season ends, I don't care, what the nature of the ending is. When the season ends, there's going to be a ton of tears in the locker room. There's going to be a lot of emotion about, man, this is really, really sad that this is over. So we want to embrace every opportunity. As I told our staff earlier today, we want to protect our present. There's a lot of people who want to focus on the future. Maybe people want to dwell on the past. We want to protect the present that we have in front of us. It's March 2nd. We're training for March 4th to have a great senior day, to allow our fans and everyone associated with our program to celebrate the regular season that we've had by going and winning the game and doing what goes into winning.
What's the story with the post-road game victory milkshakes? You guys have been doing that for a while, but
yeah.
Do you remember how that started?
At some point at Texas, we started, we actually always, going back to VCU, we would get milkshakes in our war room for the coaches the night before the game, and it'd be like, who wants a shake? And then somebody would make a run, and because we'd be in there late. I mean, back in the day, it's different now. I think remote working has changed everything, but back in the day, we would be in the war room in the hotel for road games until like 2, 3 in the morning watching tape. And it probably was counterproductive. It probably was a bit much, but it was unbelievable for staff bonding. So we would get these milkshakes. So fast forward to some point when I was at Texas, at some point along the way, we got the idea, hey, if we win, we're going to get milkshakes. And winning on the road in the Big 12 is hard. It's hard. And winning on the road in the Big East is hard. So, last year when we would win, we would get milkshakes. And we've done that here this year. And so, obviously, with the opportunity to clinch the outright championship, we said, hey, we've got to make this an extra special milkshake if we're able to win. So our folks, Maddie and Ben and Noreen and Barb did an awesome job kind of planning out heading over to that spot. And milkshake tasted extra well.
When you came here, did you set benchmarks for what you'd like to accomplish? And would you say you're ahead of schedule, right on schedule, or you didn't do any of that?
No. You're talking about in terms of results?
Yeah. I mean,
no.
Did you say, hey, in year whatever, I want to win a conference title?
No. We didn't even say we wanted to win a conference title a month ago. I mean, that's not how we go about it. For us, it's first you have to act and interact and respond, like champions, and then you can become a champion. You can't just go win a championship because you put it on your whiteboard that in year 2 or year 3 or year 4 we're going to go do this. So we try to make it all about the things we could control in our process, developing our culture with how we act, how we interact, and how we respond. And our guys have taken ownership of that, and so that's led us to where we are now. We didn't really start talking about Big East championship until everyone else started saying it so much that we needed to address it with our guys and where it was, and really didn't talk about it much at all until, the DePaul game, where at that point if we won we could, clinch a share of it. And then obviously going into Butler, everybody knew, if we were able to go on the road and win, we could clinch it outright. So, you want to use those things here and there as motivators, but what I found over the years is if you say at the beginning of the year, hey, the goal is, this conference championship or national championship or whatever, do you know how many teams say that? That's very, very hollow if you're not able to have a championship level practice today. And so that continues, that lives on, that doesn't stop just because we've clinched something. We still want to build how we act, how we interact, and how we respond, because what we did yesterday is not going to go get us anything tomorrow.
I'm just wondering, this is something we're asking a lot of coaches across the country, but this season there have been, I think, 3 different programs that have had issues with major gun-related incidents. I'm just wondering, during the off-season and stuff, how much do you kind of remind players about that? I don't know if you had any seminars, anything like that regarding the right decisions, and if there's anything differently you might do this upcoming off-season because of what's happened this year.
Well, we try to use what happens to educate our guys. I think what you're talking about are examples in college basketball that point to a larger issue that goes well beyond college basketball or even sports. And I get in trouble, I get yelled at by my superiors at a variety of schools anytime I get into this kind of stuff. So I'll stop short of saying how I feel about guns, how I feel about the way that we view them. But the reality is, we are all human beings. We are coaching human beings. These guys are in the midst of trying to have a championship season as they're being human beings. And one of the most important things you can do as a human being is treat those around you with respect and admiration for who they are and that they have a family and that they have something that they're trying to do as well. So what we emphasize to our guys is way more about that than about any specifics. Now, should you be driving around, with a gun in your glove compartment or whatever? I'm not passing judgment on anyone anywhere else as it relates to that, but no, our players should not be doing that, and I should not be doing that. And so I don't, and they don't. But that doesn't mean, to your point, that it's a given that no one ever will. And so our job is to learn from what happens.
It's a technical question, but when you guys are switching everything defensively and like a guard like Stevie or Tyler gets stuck on a big guy, how do you teach them to deal with that? Because I remember a guy like Kalkbrenner Stevie got switched on him a couple times, and Creighton wasn't able to exploit that. So how do you teach those guys to deal with that?
That's a long answer, man. See if I can come up with a short answer for you.
I don't have anywhere to be.
So when you're guarding pick and roll, there's no perfect way to do it, and there's about 17 different ways to go about it. I try to learn a lot from the NBA because those guys coach way more games. They're in way more situations. So just like looking at what they do and what makes sense up there when you're having to deal with the most complex defensive dilemmas that there are, and the best players. And so one of the things we decided going into the season was because of our personnel 1 through 5, it would make sense to switch sometimes. And so we've done that a lot. And it kind of goes against conventional wisdom because, well, why would you put Stevie Mitchell or Sean Jones, your shortest guys, onto their biggest guy and let him go into the post and then they go 4 around 1? Well, the only way we can deal with that is playing defense with 5 guys. So if they're able to take Stevie Mitchell or Sean Jones with a 7-footer down in the post, and then it's a 1-on-1 battle and the ball's thrown up for a jump ball, we're in trouble. But if we can play with 5 guys defending as one and everybody doing their part, then we have a chance. And there's certainly still times when people have taken advantage of that quote-unquote mismatch. But I think there's also been games where our guys have done a heck of a job playing with great aggressiveness, flying around, helping each other, getting their hands on the basketball. And there's been times where that's been good for us.
Going back to Tyler, you talked about his leadership and how much he improved in that area. Any specific examples of kind of things he did maybe in the off season or during the season?
Spending time with teammates. I mean, it's a really, really complicated chemistry. Not really. Just spend time. Like, be around each other. Connect. Like, beyond just the bouncing of a ball or beyond this transaction of I'll pass it to you if you pass it to me. Like, literally connect with one another. How's your family? All right, this is my background. This is what I come from. These are some of the things that I went through when I was young. What about you? And he's just done a better job of that. He's done a so much better job of getting to know the guys around him and caring about them. Genuine care and concern is the most simple yet powerful thing you can do. So a specific example, Stevie Mitchell recently had a birthday and Tyler and Stevie went out to eat. Wow. I mean, nothing you're probably going to write about on the front page, but that matters. And so when Stevie needs Tyler's help or when Tyler needs Stevie's help, they're there for one another. And it's the most important thing that we have on our team is we have that almost across the board with our players. And so our job, my job as coaches, is to protect that during this time because so much of the, as Nick Saban would say, rat poison and stuff that pulls them away is stuff that comes up this time of year that we have to help them understand. No. It's the focus on each other and caring about each other and caring about our process of what goes into winning and what goes into relationships that's going to let us succeed.